All right, it's Election Tuesday. Behind me, as you can see, is the well-known Coit Tower. We will get a little bit closer, but before doing that, just wanted to share this vantage point from Filbert Street for several reasons. One, the hills of San Francisco. Just wanted to kind of show how prominent these are in the city. I actually had to go through a bunch of these myself when my brother Steve taught me how to drive stick shift. Two, this is actually a really fantastic point to get a great view of the Coit Tower, the bridge, the bay off Filbert Street here. And lastly, a little bit more personal, but my brothers and parents actually grew up in a house just down the block here. So just providing a little bit of nostalgia for my family. So before we take in the sights and hop into the poker, I just want to share two updates / announcements. The first of which is that I'm going to be taking a bit of a hiatus from poker come December. I'll share more details in a future video. The other update is this vlog project that I started 2 years ago. While it isn't the largest in terms of numbers, in terms of poker vlogs, I'm just genuinely grateful for all of the support over the last couple of years, the steady and organic growth that I've experienced through all of you following along on this journey. I have a huge poker goal in mind, which is to land a six-figure score in a tournament. That probably won't happen for a while due to tournaments being on pause in the Bay Area, and I'm not exactly excited about traveling to places like Las Vegas at the moment. But because the channel is continuing to grow, I am nearing a relative milestone for the channel, potentially a 5-figure number in subscribers. And despite being Asian, I'm not super obsessed with the numbers. That said, it would be cool to hit that particular milestone. I am actually looking into a potential giveaway, and it'd be nice to coincide that with that particular milestone. So just want to throw it all out there. Again, thank you all for the support and tuning in, and I'll continue to bring you more content from the Bay Area. Just closing things out from Lucky Chances. Got good news and bad news like the last video. Let's start with the bad news. Bad news is that I've been on a bit of a downswing since you last saw me. Lost a few other sessions. Good news is that I booked a win today. Bad news is that there weren't very many interesting hands. But gotta wrap it up with good news. I do have hands from the other sessions played, so gonna mix in a bunch of hands today from the last few sessions. In this first one, there is an under the gun limp. I raise it to $25 from the button with pocket jacks, and she makes the call. Heads up to a flop of 7-6-3 with 2 spades, so I flop an overpair on a fairly draw-heavy board. Checks to me, I fire $35. She jams for $209. I make the quick call, and we go to a run out of a 10 of clubs and a 4 of diamonds. She tables 10-6 of diamonds for the turn 2 pair to take this dirty one down. This next hand is a straddle pot. I raise it to $35 from the hijack with queen jack of hearts, and I get 3 callers, the cutoff, big blind, and straddler. 4 ways to a flop of queen 5-3 with 2 hearts, so flop pretty hard here. When he checks to me, I c-bet it for $100. Cutoff folds. The same lady from the previous hand jams for $410. Straddler folds, and I of course make the quick call. We go to a run out of a 4 of spades and a 10 of spades, so I don't improve. But when she tables queen deuce of diamonds, I take this hand down. In this next hand, low jack raises to $20. Hijack and button call. I decide to make the call from the small blind with king 9 of diamonds, and the big blind calls as well. Heavily multi-way to a flop of jack 10-7 with 2 diamonds, so flop a high equity draw here. When he checks to the button, he puts in a bet of $25. Gets to me, I raise it to $105. Big blind folds, low jack tank calls, hijack folds, and button tank folds. We go heads up to a turn, which comes a deuce of clubs. I decide to check it this time, and she checks it back. We go to a river of a 7 of spades, so I brick out, and I shouldn't have the best hand here, and although it's weirdly played by checking the turn on a dry card, I'm just going to try to win it with some aggression. So I fire $220. She thinks for a little bit and lets it go. So good result here. This next hand is perhaps the most interesting hand of the session, where discipline can certainly be the name of the game at times for poker. There's a low jack and cutoff limp. I raise it to $30 from the button with ace queen of hearts, and I get 3 callers, the small blind, low jack, and cutoff. 4 ways to a flop of ace king 8 with 2 diamonds. Small blind leads for $60 and he's playing roughly $300 total. Low jack makes the call, cutoff folds, and when it gets to me on the button, I raise it to $200. Small blind goes all in for $300, gets back to the low jack, and he's in the tank for quite a while. And after some deliberation, he decides to jam for roughly $900. So when it gets back to me, it's going to be another $700 to call. And my thought is that he's a pretty value heavy profile, and I think he's just rarely doing this with a draw or even a combo draw. So given the player profile considerations, I decide to just fold my hand, and they go off to a run out, which comes a deuce of clubs and a 6 of spades. Small blind tables ace queen offsuit, so I would have chopped with him. And low jack tables pocket 8s for the flop set to take it down. So happy to have gotten away from this one. Last quick hand from this session, there are limps from under the gun and the cutoff. I raise it to $30 from the button with jack 8 of diamonds, and I get 3 callers, the small blind, under the gun, and cutoff. 4 ways to a flop of 8-6-3 with 2 spades, so I flop top pair on a flush draw board. When it checks to me, I c-bet it for $80. Small blind raises to $200. When it gets back to me, I decide to call and peel a turn, which comes a 5 of spades, and this time he jams for $350. And with that card coming through and completing the front door flush and some straights, I'm just going to fold this one. So that wraps it up for the notable hands played on October 25th. Ended up hitting some run bad towards the end of the session and booked a $900 loss. In this first one, there's limps from early position and the button. I check in the big blind with queen 5 of spades, and we go to a flop of king 7-3 with 2 spades. So I flop the second nut flush draw. Checks to the button, he bets $15, and only I make the call. Turn comes a 7 of spades, so I make the flush. I check, he bets $30, and this time I put in a check raise to $100. He thinks it through for a little bit and makes the call. The river comes, a queen of diamonds, and I fire out $160. He tanks for quite a while and ultimately jams for $403. Now, when he does this play, it's almost never a bluff. It's gonna feel like he's got a full house pretty often, but I don't have any player info against this particular opponent. And in the event that he could be overvaluing a weaker flush, I just level myself into a call. So I toss the chips in, and he tables king 7 offsuit for the full house. So didn't have the discipline to lay this one down and lose this one. This next hand is a straddle pot. Cutoff, who's a tight player, raises to $25. I make the call of pocket 4s, and the straddler calls as well. 3 ways to a flop of 7-7-5 with 2 spades. When it checks to me, I fire out $50 primarily for equity denial. Straddler makes the call and the cutoff folds. Turn comes a 5 of clubs, so I get counterfeited. When he checks, my hope is that he has a flush or straight draw. So I bet an amount that makes it look like I have a 7, and I fire out $65, and he snap folds. This next hand is a $20 7-handed bomb pot. I'm in the hijack with 6-9 of spades. We go to a flop of ace queen deuce with 2 clubs and a spade. Action checks through. Turn comes a 6 of diamonds, and small blind jams. Everyone folds, and a good player to my left named Sydney was actually the one that suggested the bomb pot, and he unfortunately gets dirtied here as he shows me pocket jack. So sometimes there's just no justice in poker. Last hand to note, there's a low jack raise to $20. Cutoff calls. I'm on the button with king queen of diamonds, and I put in a 3-bet to $80, and both players call. Flop of 10-9-3 with 2 spades, so I flop overs with a gutter to the nuts. Action checks through. Turn comes an 8 of diamonds. Low jack leads for $100. Cutoff jams for $375. I decide to get out of the way, and low jack calls. The river comes an 8 of clubs. The low jack reluctantly turns over his hand, which happens to be ace 5 of spades, and the other player muck. So ace high takes his hand down. So that wraps it up for the notable hands played in this session. Ended up being stuck $350. Our last round of hands is from today. It's 6-handed. First to act raises to $15. Hijack calls, and I call from the cutoff with 3-4 of clubs. 3 ways to a flop of queen 3-3 with 2 hearts. So I flop trips. Checks to me. I fire $30. Low jack raises to $100. Hijack folds, and I just make the call. Turn comes an 8 of diamonds, and this time he bets $200 with roughly $300 back. I decided to make the call. Probably a mistake not just jamming here, but my thought was that he was just going to keep firing. And we go to a river of an 8 of spades, and this time he checks. I bet enough to put him all in. He looks at his hand as though he has a missed draw and folds, so definitely missed some value there on the turn. This next one is 5-handed. A tight player raises to $25. I make a relatively loose call with deuce 5 of clubs, and the button calls as well. We go to a flop of king queen 9 rainbow. Action checks through. Turn comes a 3 of clubs, so I pick up a flush draw. Checks to me. I fire out $40, and both players release their hands. So that wraps it up for the notable hands played across the last several sessions. As mentioned, I was able to book a win today, $460 some odd. Not a huge win, but we'll definitely take it following a downswing. So not to get overly philosophical, but whenever I go through these downswings or difficult periods in life, I kind of go back to some knowledge that my brother Steve dropped on me a couple years ago. He posed the question, if you had the chance to live 2 lives, one of which just is straight across, or the other one that kind of goes up and down, but ultimately equals the same as something just straight across, which life would you take? And I think most people would take the one with peaks and valleys, because even though you go through some tough times, it makes the good times that much more enjoyable. So I kind of look at downswings in that sense. It's part of the journey. It's part of the learning process, and you just got to take it in stride. It's not always easy in the moment, but as long as you stay the course, then hopefully good things will happen if you can persevere through them. So yeah, it's good to just try to keep things in perspective. Things aren't always going to go your way, and it's just a matter of how you deal with those situations, learn from them, grow from them, and hopefully just continue to progress as you go through whatever your independent journey is. All right, so that wraps it up for this one. Thanks for allowing me to dive into a little bit of philosophy, and we'll get back to more poker hands on the next one.